If I leave consciousness unguarded, even for 1 hour, the world's suggestions pour in like floodwater. They wear my name tag. They take my chair. And before I know it, body and mood rise and fall on a tide that is not mine. The headlines shout, the markets whisper, the rumor coughs, the prognosis frowns, and I, if I am asleep, echo their voices as if they were native. Then anxiety dictates pulse. Anger fires the nerves, and a gray weariness chills the will. I cannot permit this. I must maintain dominion over what I think, over what I accept, over what I call my life. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. I stand with diligence. Therefore, in this instant, I assume conscious dominion. Not tomorrow, not after the news. Now, for God said, let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion. And I accept that commission as mine. I am not a reed shaken by the wind. I am the place where the wind is known and not obeyed. I refuse to let outer suggestion name my reality. I will not let contagion in thought become condition in flesh. I will not let the salesmanship of fear find a customer in my awareness. Be sober, be vigilant. And so I am. Sober to refuse intoxication with appearances. Vigilant to catch the subtle phrases. It's getting worse. It's too late. It runs in the family, and stop them at the threshold. I stand here as Porter, as Tyler, over mind and body. I stand here as sentinel, at the one door through which anything may enter, thought. Nothing enters that defileth. Nothing enters that claims power. If a thought knocks, I test its papers. Who sent you? Whose image do you bear? If it bears the stamp of separation, my fear, your fear, my lack, your supply, it is contraband. If it claims authority apart from the I that I am, I reject it. If it flatters the persona to make a fool of the soul, I bar it. For I have charge of this gate. I and the Father are one, and in that oneness is my authority. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and I stand. Do not imagine that this post is manned once and forgotten. I had my long periods of practice, and some days the old mesmerism still tries to slip past the guard. It may even get the best of me for a minute, but not for long. I snap out of it, return to the door, and reclaim the watch. I do not fight shadows. I switch on the light. I do not muscle fear. I deny it passport. This is not the swagger of personality. It is the quiet firmness of spirit, the gentle, absolute no that owes its power to unity, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So I bring thought home. Now, having taken my seat at the door of thought, I can look outward, at birds in their arc, at trees in their slow praise, at the wind moving like an unseen hymn without losing inward authority. The world may speak, and I will hear it truly, only as it is translated within the sanctuary. I let scenery be scenery and not sovereign. I watch without being washed away. I listen without being led. I observe the motions of life while keeping the key in my hand, the latch on the inside, the name on my lips. And from this guarded stillness will open the next unveiling, when words begin to fall away and only the living I remains, nearer than breathing, naming reality from within. But first, I am at the door, and at the door I remain. Now we come to the quietest and yet the most radical move. Having taken the watch at the door, I must also empty the room, not of furniture, but of words. For do you not see that God, Spirit, life, truth, beautiful as they sound, become merchandise in the head, concepts shuffled and dealt by the intellect, and as long as I am playing with the cards, I am not beholding the face. The letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. If I keep the letter God as a 3-letter sound, spirit as 6, I remain at the letter's altitude. Therefore I cannot permit even holy syllables to stand between me and the holy. I must come beyond language. So I begin subtraction. I let go of the biggest words first: God, Spirit, Christ, life. One by one, I set them down. Then I set down the smaller ones: law, power, presence, love as words. Do not mistake me. I do not set down love itself. I set down the word love. I lay aside even truth, even presence, until the shelves rattle empty in the head. Be still and know that I am God. Be still means this very putting down of mental furniture. Now, yes, right here is where the mind panics and reaches for one last description. Let it pass. Let it go by like a taxi I did not hail. When every label falls, watch what cannot be made to fall. There is one word I cannot throw away, for it is not in the head as a thought. It rises before thought. The word is I. Now, did you hear me say my oneness with God? Do you remember that? I did not say that. I said conscious oneness, not a belief about God and me, not a creed pinned to a lapel. Conscious oneness felt, lived, verified in silence. The kingdom of God is within you, not within a glossary. The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. I do not reach up into the skull for this. I discover it where it has always been, nearer than breathing. All the other words come up out of the head, but I comes right up out of the chest, out of the lungs, as if the exhale itself were pronouncing it. Put your hand lightly upon your chest. No, do not make a ritual of it. Make it a noticing, and you will find that before any thought forms, there is a living throb that says I, not Joel, not personality, not a swashbuckling I, a gentle, unprovable, self-knowing I am that I am. I will not pretend that this is easy the first 10 times. I had my long periods of practice in which the head, insulted at being set aside, threw up arguments, scriptures, philosophies to earn its bread. I thanked it for its service, and I said, not now. Be still. And then I listened lower. I listened where the breath meets the heart. I discovered that the breath was not mine to control, but mine to notice, and that what noticed was I, closer than the air passing, more intimate than the sound of my own name, was this witness. When I rest there, I am no longer thinking about God. I am knowing as consciousness knowing itself. In him we live and move and have our being, not abstractly, but as this very moving and being, without two. Now let me correct the subtle danger. The moment I taste this, there is a temptation to attach it to the persona and say, my realization, my power, my secret. That is the old mesmerism wearing a new robe. Put up thy sword. It has to be a gentle I, impersonal, universal. If I have truly found I, then you are included, the bird is included, the tree is included, because the I that I am is not regional. I then am not claiming privileges. I am losing all private claims in favor of conscious oneness. Not my oneness with God as property, but I and the Father are one as truth. And because it is truth, it is the truth of all. And now, because the I is felt rather than argued, I can look out upon a tree without mythology and see its quiet growth as this same life being itself. I can watch a bird trace the air and know, without imagination, that oneself is flying in 1,000 forms. Do you see the order? First the door is guarded, then the room is emptied, then the irreducible I stands revealed, closer than breathing. From here, nature is no longer scenery but testimony, and we shall go to her not for poetry, but for proof. Before I go with you to the tree and to the birds for proof, I must place a bright warning at the gate. The moment I take this word I and hitch it to Joel, my temperament, my history, my cleverness, and then swing it like a sword, I have lost the teaching and fed the very separation I vowed to end. Put up thy sword, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. If I use I to move others around, to win arguments, to parade superiority, that is not the gentle I. That is the old mesmerism dressing in holy clothes. I cannot permit it. I must maintain dominion over this point most of all. What, then, is the gentle I? It is not Joel. It is not the person boasting of attainment. It does not stride into rooms saying, "Stand aside, I am realized." It is quiet, inclusive, and without personal ambition. He shall not strive nor cry. Neither shall any man hear his voice in the streets. The gentle eye does not need an audience. It does not need to be right. It does not need to be first. It is presence without performance, authority without aggression. If it is truly I, it is universal in scope and meek in manner, for the meek shall inherit the earth. Therefore I assume that meekness as my way, not as a pious costume, but as the natural fragrance of oneness. How shall I test it? Very simply. If my eye makes me impatient with the dull, it is not I. If my eye makes me superior to the suffering, it is not I. If my eye sharpens my tongue in debate, needing to win, it is not I. If my eye divides the room into the awakened and the unawakened, and gives me a seat on the platform, it is not I. Who maketh thee to differ from another? And what hast thou that thou didst not receive? The true I can only bless, only include, only dissolve differences in one being. The counterfeit inflates the persona and sours the spirit. The gentle eye bows within and lets the Father do the works. I will not pretend that this is easy. Sometimes the personal sense, having been pushed off the stage, sneaks around behind the curtain and whispers lines to the actor. I have had it happen in the most ordinary places. One afternoon in a small country post office, a young clerk fumbled with a parcel and delayed the line. Something in me rose with that subtle heat. You know, truth, you are above these muddles. You have places to go, and I felt impatience stretch its hand for the bell. In that instant I heard, I can of mine own self do nothing, and I snapped out of it, not by force but by recognition. I let the breath soften, and on the exhale I go forth without ownership. The heat drained, and in its place came a warmth that needed nothing of the moment except to love. The apology that came from my lips was not personal shame. It was the simple correction of seeing rightly. God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. I choose grace. Let me repeat that the swashbuckling I is not a bad person. It is impersonal suggestion, hypnotism, mesmerism, the world thought of power seeking an outlet. It will try to wear my name and speak with my voice. I must stand as Tyler also over the holy word I, and whenever it hardens into a club, I let it fall from my hand. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who made himself of no reputation. To make myself of no reputation is not self-belittling, it is self-emptying. It is letting the branch remember that it is branch, and that all sap is the vine. I am the vine, ye are the branches. Therefore I, as branch, do not boast of fruit. I bear it quietly because life is flowing. Train yourself in this. When the sense of inflation comes, do not argue with it and do not parade humility. Just return to the place nearer than breathing. Breathe the word I on the exhale without owner. And if words are needed, let them be these. Not my will, but thine be done. Father, glorify thyself. This strips the mask from the ego without a fight. The persona relaxes, and the universal I, gentle as light, resumes its governance. Then, when we turn to the tree and to the birds, we will not be using them to prove our doctrine or dramatize our attainment. We will be beholding the one being itself. Philosophy ends, demonstration begins, and it will be so quiet, so unargued, that even your breath will bear witness. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Now let us test this in the open air. Look, no, really, look at a single tree. Do not measure it yet. Do not name its species, as if a label were knowledge. Stand quiet, breathe gently, and behold its steady, silent unfolding, the way the bark wears weather like a humble garment, the way buds, when their hour comes, do not argue, do not plan, do not make resolutions, but open. Have you ever found that tree hunched over, anxious about spring? Have you ever seen it make a list and grit its teeth to push sap up the column? So is the kingdom of God, as if a man should cast seed into the ground, and the seed should spring and grow up. He knoweth not how. The tree knoweth not how. It does not know anatomy. It lives. Now I must ask the one saving question. Where does that growth come from, and who is doing it? Who lifts the sap against gravity? Who shapes the leaf with such exact geometry that no two are the same and yet none is confused? Who paints the chlorophyll and times the fall? Do you say, nature? Good. But nature is another name, another concept, and I have been laying those down. Do you say, a power in the tree? Be careful. If you make a separate power in each object, you reintroduce a world of competing centers. I cannot permit that. I must maintain the simplicity of oneness. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Not the earth's, not the powers, the fullness one. Therefore I make the identification, and I make it gently, not as a swashbuckler, but as a witness. I am the life that is being this tree, not Joel, not a person claiming ownership of forests. I, the universal I, the same I felt nearer than breathing, am the animating presence by which this trunk stands, this limb extends, this bud opens. All that the Father hath is I. I, as life, am not in the tree like a tenant. I am the very being of its being. As I breathe this body, so I lift sap there. As I mend tissue here, so I knit cambium there. I am the resurrection and the life. Therefore I, as resurrection, am the uprising of spring, in oak and in lung, in apple blossom and in the healing of a bruise. There are not two lives, plant life and my life. There is life, and I am that life. Now do you see why I said to drop the word God as word? because here, without syllables, there comes a direct inner ascent. As I look at the tree and stop calling it other, a warmth of belonging rises, not sentimentality, not poetry, but recognition. I know it from within because its life and my life are not two. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. His leaf also shall not wither. I am that tree, not as a person become bark and leaf, but as life inseparable from its expressions. I am planted by the river of my own being. The same river waters these roots and this heart, and because I know it here, quarrel ends, envy ends, strain ends. The tree does not take from me by growing. I do not take from it by breathing. I and my own are one, and my own includes all, for there is no outside to the eye. Stand a few minutes in this beholding. Breathe I on the exhale so softly that no passerby would know. Let all words about God and nature keep their hats in the hall. Watch only the quiet activity. You will find that your breath eases without command, that the heart slows as if to match the tree's unhurried hymn. That ease is your witness. That slowing is the sign that you have ceased to push and have consented to let I be what I is. If thought intrudes, what about winter? What about blight? Remember, error is suggestion, not power. Let such weather pass across the sky of awareness without adopting it. Having seen growth, now watch movement. For the same eye that lifts sap without anxiety traces the air in swallows, steers migrations over oceans, and turns flocks as if a single thought were their wing. Where does that intelligence begin? Not in avian textbooks, not in the little brain pan. It begins where the tree began, where your own breath begins. We will go to the birds next, and we will behold instinct, not as a lesser reason, but as proof that life governs from within and needs no personal mind to advise it. Behold the fowls of the air, not sentimentally, but as communion within oneself. Lift your eyes now and do as the master instructed. Behold the fowls of the air, not sentimentally behold them. Watch a swallow's turn as if sky itself had pivoted. Watch a flock that moves like one mind, not colliding, not debating, not electing a leader, but curving as a single thought. Who taught the wing to accept the law of lift without night school? Who measured the hollow of the bone and gave it the perfect ratio of strength to lightness? Who drew a path across oceans that no cartographer inked and placed a compass in a breast lighter than a ring? They sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. That is not poetry. That is demonstration. Now, I will not pretend that the personal mind likes this. It rushes to the chalkboard, eager to calculate currents and magnetism, to award intelligence to the little brain pan, and then ask how such wisdom could fit in so small a skull. Let it tire itself. The bird's knowing does not arise from cerebration. It arises before thought. It is an inner law, an I that knows how to be itself without a library. Call it instinct if you wish, but do not reduce it to a lesser reason. It is older than reasoning and more exact than my best plans. Are not two sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father, without your Father, without I. Therefore I make the gentle identification, and I make it with reverence. I am the intelligence that traces these arcs. I am the law beneath the wing, not Joel, not a person waving a wand at swallows. I, as life, am the very order by which stork and crane keep their appointed times. I, as mind, am the guidance that needeth no counselor. I do not advise the bird to turn left over the cape. I am the turning. I do not lecture on nest weaving. I am the tenderness that gathers twig and grass and curves them to a cradle, and then keeps a mother's breast warm enough to shield an egg, cool enough to spare it. This is not a belief I strain to hold. It is a reality I behold, and in beholding I know myself. Now, yes, do not let this rise into a swashbuckling claim. Put up thy sword. The universal I is not a power to flaunt. It is the self of all that is, quiet and exact. Because it is universal, it is already operating as my life, your life, and the life of these birds without my meddling. Here is the correction. I do not have to force faith. I do not have to screw courage to the sticking place. I can look and see what is so. I can witness reality in plain sight until the old habit of fear loses its arguments. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? If thought cannot add a cubit to height, it cannot add a feather to a wing. The Father doeth the works. Bring this home now. The same eye that migrates a turn from pole to pole is the eye that digests my food while I sleep. The same eye that calculates wind and star is the eye that mends a cut without consultation, knits a bone in the night, balances salt and sugar without a ledger. I do not sit at a desk to count hemoglobin, yet blood moves. I do not supervise peristalsis, yet bread becomes strength. When I stop meddling, when I cease to tighten the reins of fear and control, the breath settles into right rhythm because I, nearer than breathing, am that rhythm. Thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I formed this life in secret. Ye order it still. Stand a few minutes with the birds as your scripture. Do not chase them with mine. Let them fly through you as recognition. Breathe I on the exhale so softly that nothing in you strains to believe. Let the flock's single motion become the felt unity within your chest. The same eye that turns them turns your thought from worry to quiet, your pulse from hurry to ease. And as you notice this, let the gaze come inward. We have looked at wing and arc. Now we will travel within. We will let the body testify that I governs it without panic, without command. We will see digestion as sacrament, breath as prayer, heartbeat as the metronome of the One. For if a sparrow falls not without the Father, how then could a breath be taken without I? Now travel within. Do not imagine this as a tour of anatomy. Let it be a reverent noticing. Sit or stand where you are and place attention, not as a spotlight from the head, but as a soft awareness from within itself. Begin with the hands. Feel them from the inside. Warmth appears without a match. Tingling lives there without your command. Blood moves. Nerves report. But who set that in motion? Did you, as Joel or Mary or Thomas, instruct capillaries to open and close? No. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Let the hands testify. There is an I that lives them before you think to use them. Now, the feet, they bear you. They hum with a subtle, steady life. Even at rest, they are not dead. There is circulation. There is repair. Skin renews. Nails extend their quiet millimeters with no meeting of the board, no chart, no overtime. Who directs the molecules to their posts? Do not answer with a concept. Behold, the body does not self-act as a machine left running. It is acted upon from within by life being itself. The Spirit of God hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Therefore I recognize not a personal manager tallying functions, but I gentle, universal, nearer than breath, governing as law. Now the heart area, do not grab at it. Do not fear it. Simply notice the rhythmic insistence, lub-dub, ancient, faithful, impartial. Who began it? Who keeps time when you sleep and when you forget that you have a heart at all? I do, not Joel, not the thinker perched behind the eyes. I as life am the pulse of being here. For with thee is the fountain of life. The mind, that skillful clerk, may count the beats, may name the vessels, but it does not originate one throb. Mind is servant. I am the master. The thought is an instrument. I am the musician. The instrument without the player is silent, wood and string. So this chest rises and falls because I breathe it. Follow the breath now without forcing. Let it come. Let it go. Notice that breath is not a project. It is a gift. You receive it. You release it. And the Lord God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. I, as life, am that breath. When I meddle, when I try to push or hoard air, there is strain. When I consent, when I yield to the governance already present, there is ease. Here is dominion in practice. I do not submit to sensations as rulers. A tightness arrives. It is a report, not a sovereign. A flutter comes. It is weather, not law. I, standing as porter within, refuse to let suggestion wear a crown. Peace, be still, and a great calm follows. Understand the hierarchy and keep it holy. The personal mind is not captain of this vessel. It is crew. It can polish the deck of thought, chart a course of ideas, send useful signals. But the true helm is I, universal, impersonal, the same I that lifts the sap in the tree and guides the wing in the swallow. Never get I and the person mixed. If ever you hear the mind say, now I will use power to fix this body, put up thy sword. The gentle I does not fix. It is the life in which wholeness is native. Therefore, I do not fight the body. I let the body be what it is, an effect within consciousness. Sensations register. I remain the awareness in which they appear and from which their harmony is derived. Make an inventory and make it often. Move attention to the eyes, not as cameras, but as windows through which I look. To the tongue taste, arriving before you decide to taste. To the belly, digesting a sacrament without the counsel of your calendar. To the skin pores, opening and closing, as if they understood the weather better than your wardrobe. Thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I formed this life in secret, not to abandon it now, but to order it still. Each noticing is a vow renewed. I am governed from within. I will not pretend that one tour settles the matter forever. Humanhood is a sense of separation that likes to return and claim jurisdiction. Therefore I practice. I return to the felt I closer than breathing, rising from the chest, and I let breath carry the word, not as a shout, but as a feather on the exhale. Each time my breathing softens, each time the mind's clatter falls a note or two, I know I am consenting anew to the fact. Life is being lived from within, prior to personal control. In him we live and move and have our being. This must become not a moment, but consciousness, not an incident, but a state. And so we will take up a simple method to stabilize this recognition, a way of breathing the name until stillness reveals itself as the I we are. Now we take up the method, simple, quiet, exact. Sit where you are without ceremony. Let the spine be easy, the hands unposed, the face unperformed. Do not make a project, make a yielding. And now breathe. Breathe gently. Breathe slowly. And always on the exhale, let the word I arise not shouted, not even mouthed, but felt, as if the breath itself were pronouncing it from the chest. On the inhale, receive. On the exhale, release. And there, as the air leaves, let I go forth like a feather that cannot bruise the air that bears it. Be still and know that I am God. Stillness is the condition. I is the knowing. Do not think the word up in the head. Do not roll it on the tongue. All the other words come up out of the head, but I comes right up out of the chest, nearer than breathing. Your part is consent. Your practice is to stand as porter at the door of thought and admit only this one guest, this single syllable that is not a syllable at all, but the feel of awareness, being aware. If a thought presses in calendar, memory, problem, let it pass as weather. Do not wrestle. Let the exhale come, and on that gentle falling away, let I arise, ownerless, unforced. The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. You are not manufacturing. You are noticing. What is the aim? Not to think about I, but to rest as I. Not to use a word to summon a power, but to let the mind grow so quiet that awareness stands alone, self-knowing, self-sufficient. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. In this practice, the doer drops away. There is no swashbuckler commanding silence. There is the gentle I revealing itself by being itself. Whenever you find the personal sense trying to ride the word like a horse, my realization, my attainment, put up thy sword, return to the exhale, let I go forth, without a name tag, without a history, impersonal, universal, sufficient. How do you know you are consenting? The sign is in the body's temple. When your breathing slows down and becomes almost imperceptible, so soft that you could not tell where one breath ends and the next begins, that is evidence. You have yielded to inner government. The heart's tempo lowers, as if a wise hand had turned the dial to quiet. The shoulders drop by themselves. The mind does not go blank. It becomes transparent. Thoughts may still appear, but they have lost their authority. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. The quiet is the confidence because it witnesses that I, not thought, is on the throne. I will not pretend that one sitting seals it. Long, long periods of practice. I repeat these things because I must train consciousness, not persuade God. God does not need convincing, and I do not acquire I by repetition. Repetition is how the habit of world thought loosens its grip. Each time I remember to breathe I on the exhale, I take back dominion from suggestion. Each time I forget and then begin again, I prove that grace is present in the very remembering. Do not count breaths. Do not time the session as if holiness were a stopwatch. Let 3 or 4 exhalations be a sanctuary, many times a day, until the sanctuary expands and you find yourself living inside it. If in the midst of practice a sensation arises, an ache here, a flutter there, treat it as you would passing weather. Stand as Tyler over body and mind. Open the door only to the one. Breathe gently. Breathe slowly. And always on the exhale, let I arise. That is all. As this stillness settles, something marvelous but entirely natural begins. The edges of in here and out there grow soft. The tree at the window does not stand outside your life. It stands in your very awareness as your own, being in form. The bird's ark is not scenery. It is communion. The world, which was a picture on a wall, becomes the one self speaking within itself. We will turn to that shift now, but take this method with you as your staff and your rod. He leadeth me beside the still waters. The still waters are here, in the breath that whispers I. And in that whisper, the universe is no longer foreign. It is I, knowing I. Now let the shift complete itself. What was scenery is no longer scenery. It is communion. The world stops standing out there like a painted backdrop and begins to speak from within as the one self. I do not look at grass. I behold life as grass. I do not look at sky. I behold immensity as my own being without a ceiling. I do not look at water. I behold movement as the very fluidity of I. I and my Father are one. Therefore, I do not go out to meet God in objects. I rest and find that God is this I, which is beholding itself in infinite forms. The kingdom of God is within me, and within me the kingdom appears as leaf and light, as wing and wave, as neighbor and stranger, one self, many faces. Make it practical and make it gentle. As I walk, I do not march with affirmations like a drum corps. I breathe, and on the exhale I go forth, and then, wordlessly or in the softest whisper, I acknowledge, I am the life of this grass. I am the light in this sky. I am the movement of this water. Not as ownership, put up thy sword, not as a person claiming property, but as recognition. There are not two lives here, mine and this. There is life, and I am that life. And this blade, this cloud, this river are I expressing. There is one body and one spirit, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all, and in you all, through all, in all. My interests are your interests. My supply is your supply. The tree's life is not separate from mine, for I am the life of the tree as surely as I am the life of this breath. You will notice the effect. Separation relaxes. The nervous clutch for position loosens. Striving softens of itself, because there is nothing to win from myself. Ah, replaces argument, because facts of oneness do not need debate. Peace becomes natural rather than manufactured. It rises like mist from the river of being. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. I am not manufacturing stillness. I am consenting to the still that I am. The mind, that clerk of comparisons, grows quiet because it has no quarrel left to settle. Where would it take a side when there is only one self? For of him, and through him, and to him are all things. I then am the bread of life to myself and to my brother, and there is no famine in the house of one. Extend this beyond field and shore. As you pass a face in the street, do not gather labels. Behold thyself. I am thyself. You are an extension of myself, and I am an extension of you, for we are one in Christ Jesus. We are members one of another. There is no my health and thy health. There is health, and it is I. There is no my purse and thy purse. There is supply, and it is I, the fullness pouring, as all who need. Therefore, I cannot enrich myself by impoverishing you. I cannot secure myself by fearing you. My interests are your interests because there is only one interest, life being itself. When I meet a cashier, a driver, a child crying on a bus, I do not stand outside their story. I consent to I in the midst of them, and the heart knows what to do without a syllabus. Sometimes it is a word. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is a coin placed without noise, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these. Now, yes, I must be careful here. The personal sense loves to take these holy recognitions and turn them into a crusade of will, pushing kindness, flaunting unity, correcting others with a superior smile. Put up thy sword. The gentle eye does not perform oneness as theater. It beholds it and lets conduct follow as sap follows spring. The sign that I am in communion and not in a concept is this: ease, no strain, no spiritual swagger, a warmth that includes without needing to be noticed. The still small voice is speaking as everything I behold, and I listen, and because I listen, I am guided. Having entered communion, we meet the next interference. For even as the world begins to glow from within, suggestions arise. A prickle of fear, a sudden judgment, the old reflex to defend and divide. Let me not turn them into persons. Let me not assign them faces. Error is impersonal. It is weather across the sky of I, not law within the heart of I. Resist not evil, said the Master, and judge not, and be not afraid. We will take this up now as our next discipline, to see fear and conflict as passing mesmerism, to refuse their credentials, and to let the Son of I dissolve the fog without a fight. For once communion is known, the only thing left is to stop personalizing the clouds. And then the sky remains what it has always been. I, boundless, clear, indivisible. Now we take up the discipline I hinted at, and we make it plain. Error is impersonal. Let me repeat that so it takes root. Error is impersonal. Hypnotism, mesmerism, suggestion, seeking entrance through an unguarded door. It is not a person, not a mind, not a power. It is suggestion knocking. Therefore, I stand as porter at the door of thought, and I do not admit it. I will not permit suggestion to borrow my name. I refuse to baptize it. My fear, my anger, my resentment. Because the moment I add that pronoun I have signed for the package, resist not evil, was not a call to passive suffering. It was instruction not to wrestle with shadows. Turn on the light, and the shadow has no substance. I am the light of awareness here, and in that light suggestion loses place. Apply it within first, for the house must be set in order. A flutter rises in the belly. The old clerk in the head writes upon it, anxiety. The old habit stamps it with ownership, mine. Stop. I correct myself. This is not my fear. This is a claim, an impersonal whisper, whether passing through the sky of consciousness. I recognize it. I name it as hypnotism. I let it drop. I do not fight it, feed it, or make a pet of it. I breathe I on the exhale so softly that even my thoughts do not hear it. And as I do, the body answers, breath lengthens, pulse quiets, not because I beat fear into submission, but because I refuse to enthrone it. Perfect love casteth out fear. I, as love, do not argue with fear. I make no room for it, and having no room, it departs as mist before the sun. Now to relationships, where the test is often sharp. A word strikes me, a deed offends, and injustice appears. The reflex is quick. Find a face to blame, craft a case, hold a court. I cannot permit this. For the moment I create a sinner, I have left the kingdom of I and entered the court of humanhood. Hear the Master inside your own chest. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Not because bad actors deserve a pass, but because what used their name was ignorance of I, impersonal mesmerism, seeking outlet. Therefore, I refuse condemnation. I depersonalize the claim. I look past the costume to the self. I say within, not to the person, but to the suggestion, get thee behind me. I will not affix evil to a brother or to myself, because judge not, that ye be not judged, is spiritual physics. What I nail upon another's forehead, I have nailed upon my own. I free us both by refusing the weight. Keep nature as your instructor. Storms gather, clouds race, rain lashes. You do not indict the sky. You recognize weather and you wait. In like manner, when mental weather builds, I remain the sky. I watch the thunder of thought without stepping into it. I seek no argument with wind. I simply do not become the wind. He arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. The peace was not a spell. It was authority. I and you am that authority. I say to feeling, peace. I say to memory, be still. I refuse to grant law to what is only movement. And it passes. Always it passes. Therefore I assume conscious dominion again and again and again. Nothing shall enter my mind or body that defileth, because I stand here a tiler over my mind and my body. Suggestion will dress itself as yesterday's guilt, today's headline, tomorrow's dread. I do not permit any of these to wear the signet of I. Even the tale of my past comes as a hypnotic film. I do not project it on the wall of now. Your sins and iniquities will I remember no more. As I do not traffic in old movies. I live, and life knows only itself. You will see what liberty is when you hold to this. Without personal villains and without personal fears, quarrel loses its scaffolding. Scarcity lays down its arms, because there is no longer a competitor across from me. There is only I, one life expressing as many. All that the Father hath is mine, and because there is no other self, all that the Father hath is thine also. We need not sue for it or fight for it. We need only refuse to sign for suggestions parcels, and then, free of blame and fear, walk as oneself in practical love. Take this as daily practice. Whenever disturbance appears, name it impersonal. Breathe I on the exhale, and let it drop like a leaf that has reached its season. Return to stillness. The tree will remind you. The birds will prove it. And from this clean sky I will step naturally into ethics that are not argued but live. Know my good and thy good. Know my supply and thy supply. Only the one good of the one I, shared without effort because there is no other. Now we take the next honest step. Conduct. If oneness is more than a pleasant thought, if it is the fact of being, then ethics are not rules imposed. They are the natural behavior of I being itself. Therefore, I cannot maintain a private storehouse. I cannot speak of my supply and thy supply. There is only the infinity of good, which is God, expressing as all. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. If the fullness is the Lord's, and I and the Father are one, then the fullness is I, appearing as everything needed, where it is needed, as whom it is needed. Scarcity and competition have no root except in the illusion of twowness. Understand the economics of I. If I deprive another, I deprive myself, because we are not two. If I injure another, I injure myself, for we are members one of another. This is not piety. It is physics of spirit. Whatever thought I count as gain at your expense, I have counted as loss within my own consciousness, and only that which is my state of consciousness can be externalized. Therefore, I will not traffic in fear-based hoarding. I will not pursue advantages that hinge on thy diminishment. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. I am love. Therefore, I cannot work ill and remain myself. Let nature tutor you in this. Sunlight does not bargain or compete. It pours itself without bookkeeping, and in its indiscriminate giving, each leaf finds exactly the light it can use. Rain does not hoard its drop for a favored field. It falls because falling is its nature. And in its falling, it lifts rivers and swells seeds and answers thirst it never met. The river does not invoice the meadow. It floods into green. Life shares itself by being itself. So do I. I do not strain to invent generosity. I consent to my nature as the one. And generosity happens as naturally as breath leaves the chest on the exhale. Now I must guard against the swashbuckler even here. The personal sense would make a theater of giving a ledger of virtue, a rank of saints. Put up thy sword. The gentle eye does not perform charity. It recognizes self everywhere, and so withholds nothing of its nature. Freely ye have received, freely give. I am not emptying a private tank. I am letting the ocean be ocean. Therefore my giving cannot impoverish me, and my brother's receiving cannot threaten me. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over. Running over, because the source is not inside human calculation. The source is I. Make this immediate and practical. Before reaction, before the old reflex, to clutch, to defend, to count, pause. Return to the chest where I is felt nearer than breath. One exhale, let I go forth there. And now remember, quietly and without announcement, I am thyself. Then choose the act that befits I, a word of blessing, a silence that protects, a portion shared, a price forgiven, a corner yielded in traffic, a credit extended without fear. The sign that this is true ethics and not performance is ease, the same ease by which the sun gives light. If there is strain, return to the exhale. Let the personal claim drop until only I remains, and from that stillness, act. Hold this as your daily governance. I will not conceive of private good. Know my good and thy good. There is good and it is I, rising as all who need in the instant of need. My interests are your interests, because we are one, interest life being itself. Thus competition fades, not by decree but by revelation. What is there to fight when there is only oneself appearing as many hands? The quarrel loses its scaffolding because the imagined wall between us has fallen, and with it the economics of fear. We will now consolidate this into a simple field exercise you can repeat all day, by a window or under sky. We will make of the world your chapel, and of 3 minutes a door into constancy, beginning with dominion, passing through the wordless I, and resting in recognition until conduct follows, like fruit from root. Then oneness will cease to be a belief. It will become the way you walk, the way you buy and sell, the way you look into every face and find only I. Here is the assignment, and I give it to you as a covenant with yourself. I call it the window and walk contemplation. 3 minutes only, many times a day, by a window or under the sky. Choose one natural object, tree, bird, cloud, blade of grass. Give it full attention. Do not name it. Do not analyze it. Do not fetch the botany book or the weather report. Look, and let looking be reverent, simple, undivided. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. Consider, not as a scholar, but as eye beholding eye. Step 1, dominion. For these 3 minutes, I will not be governed by world thought. I assume conscious dominion, and I stand as porter at the door of thought. Nothing shall enter my mind or body that defileth. Phone face down, headlines out, memory and forecast dismissed at the threshold. If a thought presses, I answer, not now. Watch and pray, and I watch. Peace, be still, and I refuse admission to every ripple that is not this seeing. I set my affection on things above by setting attention here, now, without argument. Step 2, strip words until only I remains. As I look, I let labels fall, tree, oak, age rings, yield one by one, like coats in a warm room. I do not think the word God. I do not think spirit. I do not think truth. I let every sacred synonym rest. For words rise from the head, and I must come from the chest closer than breathing. I feel into the sternum and the soft cave behind it. I breathe gently. Breathe slowly, and always on the exhale, let I arise not said, felt as if the breath itself pronounces it. Be still, and know that I am God. The stillness is the knowing. The I is the known. Step 3, recognition. Without a sentence, without a banner, I acknowledge the life there is the same I here. The sap that climbs is my own life moving. The wing that arcs is my own life directing. The cloud that forms and dissolves is my own life appearing and disappearing as shape in the sky of awareness. Not ownership put up thy sword. Not the swashbuckler declaring dominion. The gentle eye beholding itself. One God and Father of all, who is above all, and through all, and in you all, through all, in all. I and the Father are one, and so there are not 2 lives to reconcile, only one. Life recognized. Step 4, carry it into action. 3 minutes end, but I do not end. I step from the window or resume the walk, and I keep the tone. Pray without ceasing becomes the hum beneath doing. I speak from stillness, not into noise. I transact from oneness, not from private gain. I meet a face, and within I say, I am thyself, and the next right thing presents itself, an answer, a listening, a gesture, a forbearance, without self-consciousness. Then I repeat the practice again at noon, again at dusk, again between tasks, until repetition trains consciousness and consciousness becomes state. Long periods. Yes. Gentle. Yes. Exact. Yes. This is how I build stability. Dominion, wordless. I, recognition, conduct fruit from root. Hold the secret in your heart. You are not practicing to become I. You are practicing to stop forgetting. What is discovered as I in these minutes was not born when the bird hatched, nor will it die when the leaf falls. Before Abraham was, I am. Lo, I am with you always. Therefore, the practice is time-bound, but the discovery is timeless. Let the clock measure the 3 minutes. Let eternity reveal the one who measures nothing. We will rest there next, the stillness that never moved, the I behind all forms known not by argument, but by being I. Now let me gather the thread I have laid in your hands and place it where it belongs, in the heart, in the chest, nearer than breathing. We began by standing porter at the door of thought, refusing world suggestion the right to name our reality. We stripped words until only I remained. We watched tree and bird and found that life lives itself without our will. We breathed I on the exhale until the mind became transparent and the world shifted from scenery to communion. We refused to personalize error, and we consented to one good. All of this has been one movement, not many. One river, running to one sea. Direct knowing, not belief about oneness, but the perception of I everywhere as everything, within itself. Now the final recognition, and it is simple. Forms change. I do not. The bird rises and the bird rests. The leaf unfurls and the leaf falls. This breath comes and this breath goes. But the eye that beholds, the awareness in which rising and resting appear, has not moved 1 inch in any direction. Be still and know that I am God. The stillness is not a mood, it is identity. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. The sameness is the nature of I. Before Abraham was, I am. Time flows, bodies grow and subside, scenes alter, and yet the witness of them all, the I that is closer than breathing, remains unaging, undying, unafraid. I am that I am. Do not make an idol of death or of its opposite. Put up thy sword. This is not a swashbuckling conquest of the grave. It is awakening from the dream that I was born into what I am. I am the resurrection and the life. Take that within, not as a future event, but as a present function. Resurrection is the rising of awareness out of humanhood each time I return to wordless I and find that I never left home. Regeneration is this renewal of mind into single I, seeing only I. Ascension is the natural lift of consciousness above the horizon of personhood until the self recognizes itself as all. In him we live and move and have our being. And because I and the Father are one, I live and move and have my being in I. I then am immortality, not Joel. Never do get I and Joel mixed up, but I, the one being, appearing as Joel and as you and as tree and as bird. Therefore I do not make bargains with time. I assume conscious dominion now and now and now again. I stand as Tyler over mind and body, and let no voice of fear or flattery enter to dethrone this stillness. When sensation rises, I do not borrow it a name. When memory waves its robe, I do not bow. I return to the chest. I breathe gently. I breathe slowly. And always on the exhale, I let I arise, ownerless, unforced. In that soft relinquishment, the witness stands revealed as what it has always been, the stillness that never moved. Hold this as the quiet vow of your day. I will not be governed by world thought. I will return again and again to the place where words fall away and I remains. I will let the world be my witness, not my threat. When I next see a tree, I will not merely admire its shape. I will recognize I there and rest. When I hear a bird at dawn, I will not say, beautiful sound out there. I will know I am the life that sings, and rest. When breath enters and leaves, I will feel the space in which it moves, and say within the silence, I, and rest. There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God, and that rest is not postponed. It is the Sabbath of awareness present in the midst of doing. And so I end as I began, with dominion and with gentleness. I will not parade realization. I will keep it as the warmth in the chest that lights my conduct without announcement. My interests are your interests, for we are one self. My supply is your supply, for there is one fullness. My living is your living, for there is one life. Lo, I am with you always. I am with me. I am with thee. I am with tree and bird and breath. Therefore I fear no change, for I am the changeless within all change. I lay me down in peace, and I sleep, I awake, for I sustain myself. The world rises and sets within me, and I, still and knowing, remain.